With everything that is going on in the world today and in Israel in particular, we wanted to talk about something extremely important that is often forgot. The war, the battle, does not go to the man with the greatest army, with the strongest, most advanced weapons, and the biggest missiles. No, 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 no. The battle goes to the one who's on the Lord's side. Because it is God who has the ability to give victory or defeat. And always, throughout history, the Lord has decided the outcome of every single battle according to His purpose, according to His plan. Sometimes to bless His children, sometimes to punish His children. Even when we lost the battles, the outcome was chosen by God as a punishment and a judgment against us for not trusting in Him. Because every time we trusted in the chariots of Egypt, or in the numbers of our troops, like David found out, we lost. Because strength and victory come from one place and one place alone. That is Yod Hei Vav Hei, Adonai Tzevaot, the God of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Israel.
And that means simply, like you said, everything you said, amen, amen, amen. Because it really isn't about what you use, but what God chooses. In one instance, I think it was Samson or David that killed 10,000 Philistines with the jawbone of an ass. Think about it. In another instance, it was Gideon with candles and lanterns and the sound of a shofar. What does God use? Even a slingshot. If you talk to little David, little shepherd boy, farm boy David, while the military, with all of their technologically advanced weaponry, with all of the medals and all of the muscular trained soldiers who went through Camp Pendleton and the Navy SEAL training program, the Lord decided to not use any of that. He chose a boy. But the boy gave God his weapons, whereas the ones with the big spears and the big muscles didn't give God the muscles or the big spears. They were relying on their muscles and their big spears. In fact, they might have been relying on their own skill to fight. They've studied the latest martial arts, and they brag about their training to fight. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with training to fight. We should, but train to fight. We should try to choose the best weapons. But if you're going to rely on that for your ultimate victory, you're gonna be quite dramatically surprised what happens when what you've done isn't good enough and your weapons aren't technologically advanced enough. They're not strong enough. They're not sharp enough. And somebody came up with a new method of fighting that you did not think of. You better have something that's above all of that, the unknown variable. God goes, you can rely on your own strength, but wouldn't you be better off relying on mine? But I only got a fish and two loaves. You want to give it to me and let me show you what I can do with it? I'll show you what I can do with 5 smooth stones that you picked up from a brook. I'll show you how I can protect you with just a loincloth around you and not a metal dragon shield. I can deflect the blows. And so we're talking about relying the battles. It's so easy sometimes for us to get stuck in our ability because we do have abilities. But as my grandmother often said, man's extremity is God's opportunity. Necessity is the mother of invention? Well, no. Limitation is an opportunity for God's revelation. When we are less, God is more. When we can't, God can. When we won't, God will. When we don't, God does. So we're going to start it off in the book of Genesis, Bereshit. Nations near Sodom and Gomorrah. What was the outcome of that? It says they won. Now we'll say really quick, briefly, what happened in Genesis 14. Why don't you tell them?
Well, that was the battle of the 4 kings against the 5 kings, where Abraham's nephew Lot got taken as a hostage, and Abraham went after them with his 318 men and defeated those kings and returned the nephew and all the other hostages that were taken. Where the king of Sodom wanted to give Abraham the loot, and Abraham said, I will not accept a single coin from you, lest you say you made Abraham rich, because Abraham was righteous, and he gave God, Adonai, the victory and the honor.
And there are people that want to take the credit from God. That's why sometimes it's best to not accept their gifts. They want to, then they'll get in your face and say, well, I saved you. I rescued you. I'm the one that helped you. Then they take the credit from God. You know, people do that often, particularly people that help you physically, financially, spiritually, in any way. You'll notice they'll start taking the glory from God. Remember, you're just the instrument. It is God that does what God does, and he'll do it anyway with anyone how he elects and how he chooses. And then you take that glory as if you did something. Well, you did. You were obedient to what God was doing. And if you weren't obedient, then God would have give that blessing of obedience to someone else. It's the blessing of obeying, a blessing in obeying God. It is the blessing, a privilege and an honor. The dentist said to me last week, I'm the one who's privileged and blessed to have you help me with this health problem, this injury. But no, he's telling me that he's blessed to have had me speak to him and the words that the Lord gave me to share with him. Well, they won that battle. Exodus 17, the Amalekites, they won. You want to talk about that one?
At the Exodus, after they crossed over, the Amalekites came to attack Israel, and Israel was with God. They did what was just and right at the time. They were faithful. Moshe was leading them. And the Lord told Moshe, lift up your hands. And as long as he obeyed, they had victory. And as soon as Moshe's hand started coming down, the battle was turning, and the Amalekites were winning. But then they put a stone under his hands to keep his hands up, and his brother and another man helped him. They held Moshe's hands up so that he could obey the commandment. They helped him be righteous in the sight of God by obedience, and they got the victory.
That's, in the Lord of the Rings, Sam said to Frodo, I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you. And we bear each other's burdens. We bear each other's burdens. Oh, my brother. Oh, Steve's over there. He's trying to hold up. This guy, we got to help him hold it up. Why? Other people. Sometimes when you are not helping a ministry, when you're not helping to hold it up, other people suffer. You got to keep that person. Sometimes you got to keep that person alive so the other ones can live. That was my life. I was supposed to be aborted. Why? So my other brothers could continue to live and be taken care of. My father had 4 other kids that needed my mother's mothering while he's running his business, and the children need a mother. They need someone to care and to nurture. It's a 2-parent job when you have children. And the most important part really is both parts. Somebody's got to take care of the kids and somebody's got to go out there and do the hard work. Said to the doctor, listen, this pregnancy is difficult. She might die. I can't afford that. Well, I got 4 of the kids at home, doctor. You're going to have to abort this baby. I got to keep my wife alive. I'm not going to risk her life when I've got 4 of the kids. I'd rather lose the one than to lose the 4. And sometimes you got to figure out what to do. Now, nobody can help that situation but God. God goes, I'll hold you up. Why? You've got 4 other kids to raise too. I know. So sometimes when you're helping someone, you're helping more than someone. We get donations to our work that we do for God. And the majority, I have to tell you, you have no idea of as little as sometimes it is, how far it goes with other lives and other people. I do that and have done that with my entire life since I was 5, no matter what I have. I'm first thinking of how I can use it to help somebody else. And I think to myself, how little I can live on so somebody else can live. You got to help and hold people's hands up sometimes. It'll be to your advantage. And if even it's not to your advantage, you're helping somebody else. Help somebody else. Great story. And they won. Amalekites, Numbers chapter 14, and Deuteronomy chapter 1. In that battle, they lost.
Well, that
Why?
happened after the Lord told Moshe to send the 12 spies to the land, and they came back and gave a bad report. The people of the land were giants, we're like grasshoppers in their sight. We can't take them. Because you're trusting in your own power, you're trusting in your own size. They showed a lack of trust. So the Lord said, that's it, turn around, go back to the desert. And then, what did they say the next day? They felt remorse. So they all came on their strength and said, here we are, we did sin, but now we'll go up to the place Adonai promised. Now we're gonna go and fight. Moshe told them, why are you opposing what Adonai said? You will not succeed. Don't go up there because Adonai is not with you. Of course, they didn't listen. They went up there, they were presumptuous, they went there and they got their, you know what, handed to them.
They got the butts handed to them. And why? Because a lot of times you'll give somebody something that God tells you to tell them to do. God tells you to do something, and you say no. I'll think about it. Wow. Then you get rebuked and you understand what God's going to do. Oh, I'm going to do it now. And then they do it, but they don't get the blessing. Because what those two things have in common is that you are the one that's deciding when you are going to do or not do, not God. So when God tells you to do it and you don't, then you change your mind and now you decide to do it. But God has already pronounced the judgment. It's like, doesn't work that way. Oh, no, no. And then, no, I'm going to do it anyway. Whoa. Wow. You see, true repentance just does not work like that because it says to the man, to the woman, I'll decide when I will and won't do something. So then you're going to have to rely on yourself. And the sad thing about that, none of you who have diseases that are terminal or threatening your life follow that procedure. Rather, it's homeopathic medicine or traditional medicine. You follow what your mystics and charmers and new age people tell you to do, your Chinese medicine or your pharmaceutical company. Either way, you have decided who's going to be the master and you follow it. Then you go and find other people who tell you exactly what leaf to mix with what branch and what thorn to put in and stew with what root and how hot and how often to do it. And rather you want to smoke it or use it as a salve or an oil or eat it or breathe it in, and you follow that. And you listen. So it's proof that you don't want to listen to God. Or you'll listen to somebody else, but you don't want to listen to God. Numbers chapter 21, the Canaanites, they won. Well, what happened, God?
In that story, it says the king of Arad, a Canaanite who lived in the Negev, heard that Israel was approaching. So he attacked Israel and took some of them captive. And Israel made a vow to Adonai, if you will hand these people over to me, I will completely destroy their cities. So Adonai listened to what Israel said and handed over the Canaanites, and they completely destroyed them. Now, why? Because the Lord already established that they should be completely, utterly destroyed, and Israel just guaranteed, we'll do what you said.
We will obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Yeshua, Yadevahe, but to trust and obey. Numbers 21, Deuteronomy 3, Amorites, Bashan. They won.
Yeah? So in the same chapter, they continue their journey and they sent messengers to Sihon, the king of the Amori. Let us pass through the land. We won't turn to the side. We're not gonna trample your fields, your vineyard. We won't drink any of the water. We will just go along the king's highway until we have left the territory. Just let us pass through. But the king would not allow Israel to pass through the territory. Instead, he got real nasty and wanted to fight Israel. So, the Lord did not appreciate his lack of hospitality. You know, the Lord, he has a few things that really get on his nerve. One of them is lack of hospitality. If you're being mean and nasty to foreigners, to people that just don't bother you and you repay evil for good, he's gonna get on you real quick. And he did. And Israel defeated him and took control of his land from the Arnon to the Yabok River. Because the territory was well defended, but Israel took all of the cities.
And you're gonna find out this hospitality theme again with Abigail and David. You know, why be nasty? And I told a guy the other day at McDonald's that I've been ministering to for, I don't know, 10 years. I said, do you talk about somebody righteous behind their back? Do you slander somebody good? Nobody's perfect, so I don't want to hear about somebody not being perfect. But do you slander somebody good? Someone who's kind to you? Someone who's always encouraging you? If you can treat a righteous person, a good person, a kind person with nastiness, slander, and evil and hostility, who loves you, loves your family, loves your children, loves your friends, loves your business, loves your dog, what does that say about you? That's got to be pure evil. Because I can understand somebody treating somebody who's nasty to them, somebody who steals, somebody who mocks them, somebody who hits them, somebody who schemes, scams, and plots behind their back to derail them, to destroy them, to impede them, to obstruct them. I understand that. But when you are doing that to somebody who's kind to you, who speaks to you to help you, that makes you evil and a tool of evil. Not very hospitable, are you? When you can treat your friends and your family, those you say you love, like an enemy. Well, back to the Midianites. Numbers 31.
Well, Adonai said to Moshe, on behalf of the people of Israel, take vengeance at the Midianim. After that, you will be gathered to your people. Well, the Midianites, if I remember correctly, caused Israel to sin with all of their women that came to prostitute themselves to cause Israel to sin. So now it was time to take vengeance. And Moshe said to the people, equip men from among yourself for war. They are to go and fight Midian in order to carry out Adonai's vengeance on Midian. So think about this for a moment. We are servants, we talk often about angel. An angel is a messenger. When you act on God's behalf, you are the angel of the Lord. He can use a spiritual being or he can use man. And Israel was called to be the angel of God here on earth. That is why you saw Israel taking vengeance on the people whom the Lord ordained vengeance upon, as it says in the famous Psalm 149.
Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. I will repay. He comes to execute judgment upon the earth with his saints. They won. They won. Joshua, Joshua, Jericho. Don't you all know that story? They won. What happened?
Now that's another miraculous victory that is not reliant on the strength and the numbers of soldiers. Jericho was completely barricaded, and Adonai said to Yehoshua, I have handed it over to you. including its kings and warriors. You are to encircle the city with all your soldiers and march around it once. Do this for 6 days. 7 Kohanim are to carry 7 shofars in front of the ark, and on the 7th day you are to march around the city 7 times, and the Kohanim will blow the shofars. Then they are to blow a long blast on the shofar. And on hearing the sound of the shofar, all the people are to shout as loudly as they can, and the wall of the city will fall down. Wow.
Hallelujah. Follow God. You know what? That's the IKEA verse. Follow the instructions. Just follow the instructions, folks. Let's follow the instructions. Me, you, mom, dad, brother, sister, friend. Follow what Papa has said. Test me and don't see if I don't pour out a blessing you cannot contain. Put me first. Think about my house before your house. Put me first. Pon Dios primero. They won. Now they're on a winning streak, aren't
Well,
they?
not for long.
That's a four-peat, as they say in the sports world. But it seems like that's all they're going to get. Joshua chapter 7.
Well, as the story continues, they were told to burn everything to ashes except for the silver and gold and brass and iron, put it in the house of Adonai. But here in Joshua chapter 7, some of the people misappropriated some of the goods set aside to be destroyed. One of the men saw something that he wanted, and he took it and hid it in his tent. And in consequence, the anger of Adonai blazed up against the people of Israel. So that's the background. Then Yehoshua sent men from Jericho to Ai, which is next to Bet Aven, east of Bet El, telling them, go up and spy the land and go and attack it. And they sent just a few men because they realized, why send everybody? If the Lord said we're gonna win, we're gonna win. And they got defeated horribly. And then Adonai said to Yehoshua, why are you face down? Israel has sinned. They have violated my covenant which I commanded them. They took something that was meant for destruction and stole it. And that's why the Lord did not go with them. And they lost.
Now, you value something that God does not value. You value something that God does not value. God says, get rid of it. You don't want it. It's precious to you. And yet what God tells you to keep and value, you throw away. You've chosen silver and gold, real estate assets, toys, seasonal passes to your sports and your Disney and your Vegas hotels. You don't value what God values. And you devalue what God values. You don't put a premium on what God says is worth. Wow. You call your financial advisors all day long and check the trades to see what the world values. And that's what you want. But you don't want what God values. You don't put a premium on a man of God, but you'll put a premium on a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a counselor, an athlete, an actor, a sports team. Oh, you guys put premiums on all the stuff that God does not. Get rid of it. Well, I don't want to get rid of that. You know how much that's worth? You know what God said? You don't see in God's eyes. But when you do, and Joshua, when he found out, what did Joshua do?
They took that man and everything he has, including his children, they killed them and burnt it all up.
Because the entire community, listen, because it's for the collective good. It's better to get rid of that small band of rebels because God's going to bring a judgment. That's another story. Where is he? Well, release him, else we're going to burn the whole city down. Will you release him to us? Or do we have to come in and make everybody suffer for that one sin of that one man? Joshua did what was necessary for the greater good and the greater community, especially when he realized what they've done. And they won. Had Joshua not done that, they would have lost.
Yeah, in Joshua 8, after they fixed all the plunder issues, they went out again and got the victory.
Joshua chapter 10, the Amorite kings, they won. Now, we've had many situations. I'm not sure if this is this story where he runs into the angel in the middle of the road and he asks, "What side are you on? You on our side or their side?" The angel says, "Neither. I'm on God's side." Oftentimes, when Guy and I are talking and counseling people, ministry, they often make the mistake of thinking that we're on their side, or they make the mistake of being offended that we're on somebody else's side against them. We're on no one's side. We're on God's side. And that's who you want in your life, someone who's on God's side. You're going to get the best defense if you've got somebody who's on God's side. And if you're on God's side, then of course we're on yours. And if you're the one that's wrong, we're going to tell you to repent to the person that you offended or insulted and make it right. I had one of my guys, he had an argument with somebody in his military order. And he told me about it. And at first, when he told me about it, I was defending him. But the more he told me the story, and the more I listened to, I realized, wait, you're in the wrong. And I ended up defending the one that he thought was wrong, and the one that he was calling me to say, telling me what would happen. And then I can't stand that somebody was hurting him and against him. And I was angry about it until I found out, as he kept talking, oh, you're the one that's in the wrong. You need to go and apologize to him. And that's it. End of story. Moving on. The list of cities that were conquered. That's Joshua chapter 10. They won against the Amorite kings. And now we go to list of cities. How many of those cities are there?
They captured, well, it starts here from Makedah. They took everything, killed everybody. Livna. From Livna, they went to Lachish. And then from Lachish, they went, and I think the king of Gezer, so they destroyed him too. He went to help them, so then they went to Eglon and defeated that. From Eglon, they went to Hebron and defeated that. And they went to Dvir and the entire land in the Negev, which is the desert, the Shfela, the mountain area. They went down to Gaza. They got that too, the land of Goshen and Givon. They destroyed every enemy of God wherever they went, as long as they remained faithful. In that movie, Joan of Arc, there is a great scene when the army gathers for battle, and she goes there and she sees them all drunk and gambling, and some of the men were sleeping around with prostitute, and she goes, no, everybody stop. If we're gonna fight a holy war and we want the Lord to be with us, we ought to be with him. It's a holy war and you're unholy? No. You set yourself apart. No gambling, no drinking, no prostitution. Purify yourselves, and then the Lord will give you the victory. And Israel did it, and they did.
And think about that. We want victory from God, and a lot of people, because God is just a genie in a bottle, we want victory in God. We want God's favor. But again, we don't do what makes God happy. We want God to do what makes us happy. But you want God's favor. You want God's mercy. You want God's grace. You might want to get in place for that. You might want to prepare. For the Olympics, they often say that the athletes, prior to the Olympics, they abstain from sex, they abstain from drugs, they abstain from pleasure of unnecessary food and libations, because they want to be at their optimum to win a gold medal. What about for God's gold medal? See, you got to be all in or you're not in at all. What are you willing to do to win that battle? What are you willing to give up? What are you willing to sacrifice? Can't be a part-time warrior. Can't be a part-time lover. Can't be a part-time follower. We have got to do better. The large coalition kings that followed by various victories, and they won.
In Joshua 11, the continuation of the capture of the land. Now, again, it's very important to state the obvious because it's not so obvious for so many today when they read it. Oh, Hawaii, Israel committed genocide. They took over the land. Free Palestine. Well, listen, the land, first off, belongs to Adonai. It's his land. He chose to give it to Israel because the inhabitants of the land violated and polluted it. It's his land. If you're a landowner, don't you get the right to decide who lives at your apartment, at your property, at your assets?
Knives out. How many people get into family squabbles? It's no different than what's happening in the Middle East. Upset that the person that really owns the land, that decided what to do with the inheritance, has decided to cut you out of part of it and give it to the maid, or give it to the adopted child, or give it to the youngest one, or give it to the middle child. Well, and you want to kill and steal and destroy and sabotage. Oh, he was senile. He didn't know what he was doing. He knew what he was doing because it's his. He can do with his wealth what he wants to do. God can do with his land what he wants to do. And God can do with you and I what he wants to do, which is why Abraham had no problem when the Lord said, give me your son. He's yours anyway. You were the one that gave him to me. I didn't give myself a son. I couldn't have children, nor could my wife. No, who am I to tell you, God, what to do with yours? I'm a steward. This was your child you gave to me and Sarah to have. This is your money. You say God has blessed you. No, you don't, because then when God gives you money, you do with it what you want to do, not what God tells you to do with it. And especially to fulfill his kingdom first. And then you say God did it.
Well, but no need to go that far. He gave you breath. There you go. What else do you need? He gave you breath. He gave you your heart, your mind, your brain, your spiritual gifts, your talents. Everything you have is God's. Nothing is yours. So obviously you are to do everything with everything what God desires.
I like the way you said he gave you your breath, as if they value breath over silver and gold and money. And isn't that interesting? You've all seen the movies. People are willing to die holding the precious. They'll go down on a ship holding a treasure chest. They'll die to go back in a place to get some gold coin and die. They run back in a fire to go into their vault when the house is burning down. They'll risk their life for money, so they don't value their breath. Of course, the breath is the highest thing. Forget the breath. I just want the money. But I want to die clutching. Nah, with my dead body, you're not going to have my wealth. And you get a lot of people that way too. They'll fight with their children. They'll fight with their family over an inheritance. Rather lose their breath with you than the gold clenched in their fingers. I think there was a Twilight episode that we watched years ago, and the guy had they had all this gold they valued, and they were killing each other one at a time. And I guess at the end, I think he went in to try to. He had some gold left over. You remember the story, to a place to get water or something, and then they find him, and they felt sorry for him because he didn't realize he had landed in the future or someplace where gold had no value. And remember that scene?
Yeah, they committed a robbery and they froze themselves for 100 years so that they could come out and not be wanted, etc., and have all this gold to be rich in the future. And then when they finally got there, they didn't know they already came up with a way to produce synthetic gold, and it had absolutely no value. And the people were laughing. Why did he offer us gold? Doesn't he know? It's like, what are you doing?
And he risked his life for dirt, for sand. I laid on the sand the other day. You can't get the little particles and specks off. You rinse and you'll find it for days and weeks. And everybody that knows a beach knows that. And some sand is more powdery than others. What do you value? No sooner than they talked about all of the coalition going all the way to Joshua, Judges chapter 1-5. Judges. The time where the people said we're done.
Yeah, the Canaanites and the Perizzites. Now they started off though by asking Adonai, who will go up for us first to fight against the Canaanites? And Adonai gave them an answer. So they started off well. They sought Adonai's advice, which is always the wise thing to do, as David often did. Let's seek the word of Adonai. Give me the ephod. I'm gonna pray and see what Adonai says. Always do that. That's how you know what Adonai wants you to do, so you're not gambling with your life. So they did that and they got the victory.
And they won. King Asa started off, some of you started off so well, and you can't keep it up, can you? Can't keep up that streak of obedience.
Then in verse 8, the people of Judah fought against Jerusalem, captured it, they set it on fire, and they went down to the Canaanites in the hill country, the Negev, the Shephelah. They attacked a lot of the Canaanites, and I think they got lazy. The Lord told them to destroy everyone and burn the cities to the ground, but they left some of the people be. Here it says in verse 27, Menashe did not drive out the inhabitants of Bet Shean and its villages, Ta'anach and its villages, Dor and its villages. In time when Israel had grown strong, they did put the Canaanite to forced labor, but failed to drive them out completely. See, that happens when you start feeling a little high and mighty, and you start taking matters into your own hand. The Lord tells you to destroy something, and you go, whoa, but wait, I mean, we can use them. Why kill them? We can use them for forced labor. We can make money off of them. Which is the same story that happened earlier in Joshua with the man who saw the gold. Why, it's precious. Why destroy this? I can keep this. And of course, this story repeats all throughout history. You're supposed to destroy something. See, that's how King Saul failed. When he too fought the Amalekites, and we'll get to that later, he was told to completely kill all of them. And then the prophet shows up and he's like, what's all that noise of animals? Oh, well, I kept all the animals to bring them as offerings to Adonai. But I told you to kill them all, so you disobeyed.
Ananias and Sapphira lost their life because they did not give it all. The young rich ruler ended up outside of the kingdom of God because he would not give up it all. It's either the Lord's telling you to get rid of it all, get rid of something, or to give up something, to destroy his enemy, or give out of your all. All. You shall love the Lord thy God with all, with everything, with all. And when you come after evil to get out of your house, get rid of the hametz, all of it. Get rid of all of the hametz. Give up all of yourself. And when you hold back your breath, because you don't talk, I don't want to offend them. You hold back your breath so God doesn't have your breath. I don't want to tell them the truth. You hold back the breath because God doesn't have your breath. I just want to give a portion of my offering because you hold back your resources. So God will hold back on you. Don't worry. He gets the better hold back than you do. Don't worry about that. Trust and obey. Obedience is better than sacrifice, and hearken the fat of the ram. Philistines. Who doesn't know about the Philistines? And that's not Palestine. Two different things.
Now next are the cycles, what is called the cycles of the battles with the judges, where Israel forsake God, God hands Israel over to be defeated by an enemy, Israel returns to God, God acts to deliver them, and he raised up one judge after another. And those stories, you got Judges 3, verse 8 with Aram, verse 12 with the Moabites, Ammonites, Amalekites, verse 31 with the Philistines, Judges 4 with the Canaanites.
And this is where we hear about that great woman, Deborah. Because no man was found fit. No man was found fit. And this is the cycle, back and forth, back and forth. Addicts, you know about this, don't you? Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And that's the cycle. And that cycle goes all the way through, back with the Midianites, all the way through 6. And then we finally get to a point, at some point, like that man we met a few months ago, with that long white hair, dressed in a suit, walking into a church service, 90 years old, who's been sober for 30 years. Because most of my friends are dead, and most did not survive, and most died in their drunkenness. I finally decided to get sober at 60. I was blessed by God. His grace, so I was simply spared to tell the story, spared to warn others not to take the risk of being a drunk as long as I was. I should have already been dead. I'm 90, been sober for 30, only stopped drinking at 60. Lost my wife, lost my house, lost my business, lost my friends, lost my children. And even to this day, I still suffer with the relationship with my children as a result of 60 years of living like a drunk. But at least my soul is saved now. And I've turned around. But yeah, the soul is saved. And what's the damage underneath your vehicle, your life vehicle? How many people that you run over and ruin and put them in the same situation? How many other children? How many other people saw you drinking? You encouraged them just by you walking around drinking. How many other liquor stores that you support? How many casinos that you give away God's money? Don't give your strength away, my son, to women. Proverbs 31, the mother telling her son. How much of your sex have you given away to prostitutes? Taking your energy, your money, your time, giving all that energy, jumping off of mountains and surfing waves rather than helping the poor, dealing with your family, your brothers, the people who are doing God's work. It's not jumping off of waves and squirrel suits off of mountains. So we can keep going. And then we end up with the Civil War in the 12th chapter of Judges. The Civil War, the Gileadites versus the Ephraimites. We've been so used to fighting our enemies that now we're fighting each other. And America knows about that. Our greatest war is not against China, the Germans, the Russians. No. Brother against brother. And then we go back into a cycle back with the Philistines and Judges. Then Laish, they win in 18. Then back to chapter 20, another civil war. There you go, fighting amongst yourselves again. Israel versus the Benjamites. Read it.
Yeah, it was a horrible story, really. One of those black stains in the history of Israel. And one thing that has to be mentioned here in this civil war, just to give you a background, you read it, it's a horrible story. But the people of Israel assembled against Benjamin to attack them because the people of Benjamin did something horrible. And the people of Israel did call on Adonai for guidance, should we go? And they lost, even though the Lord said yes. And then they asked Adonai again. He said, go. They went and they lost. And then on the third time, they won. And I wondered about that often. And only recently did I understand why, despite the fact that Adonai told them to go, they still lost. And that was because they too, much like Benjamin, were unrighteous. They were worshipping to this idol of the Micha statue, and Benjamin had the Pilegesh on the hill, and Adonai brought justice to both. It's like, yes, Benjamin is wicked, it has to be punished, but so are you, so I'm gonna punish both of you. First, you're gonna get your butts kicked, and then you're gonna kick Benjamin's butt.
And how many times do you stop doing what's right because you keep getting persecuted? Well, I keep doing it, I'm not getting anything. Stay to it. Even people that are in the secular world will keep losing money. You know how long Vegas was losing money before it made it? And then the exponential growth shot like a rocket. You know how many mocked Jeff Bezos of Amazon, made fun of him, all kinds of stuff. He was a bunt of jokes, starting a books business out of his garage, and becomes the richest man in the world. Of course, known as Mr. Musk. And that goes back and forth too. See, the people that love the Lord, that love a team, they're with that team like the New Orleans Saints. They're with that team. They don't run at the first sign of trouble or the first sign that something happened or some scare. They're with, I love you, for better or for worse. I'm with you. When you're up, when you're down, when you're sick, when you're healthy. I don't run because you corrected me. I don't run because we had an argument. That's just life. Not every day is going to be a walk through the park. But I didn't love you and choose you for a walk in the park. I choose you for a real life experience. So through the storms, through the tough days, through the good days, when we're living off of beans and rice and we have filet mignon, the Civil War, the Judges, back to the cycle. And now we got Saul. But why are we getting back in this cycle again? We're tired of God. We're tired. We want a king. We want a king to lead us. We want to be like other people. We want to be like other nations. A lot of you have wives that way. And it usually starts with the women before it ever starts with the men. They just want to shop. I want to shop. I want to be like other women. I'm tired of this holy lifestyle, which they never intended to be holy. You can't be tired of something you intended to. You don't want to change horses mid-race and find another woman because it's a secretary with blonde hair. That's not the way that works. You were never in it. And now you pretend to be. You had never given them the heart.
Then you got 1 Samuel chapter 4. The word of Shmuel came to all Israel. Israel went out to fight the Pelishtim, and they lost. The battle was fierce, and Israel was beaten by the Pelishtim, killed about 4,000 soldiers on the battlefield. The army came back and said, "Why has Adonai defeated us today before the Pelishtim? Let's bring the ark of the covenant of Adonai from Shiloh to us, so that he will come among us and save us from our enemies." So the people sent for the ark of the covenant, and they brought it to be with them. But little did they know that bringing in the ark of Adonai to be with them is not bringing Adonai to be with them, because they weren't with Adonai. So what happened is that the ark of Adonai was captured by the Philistines, along with the many slaughtered from Israel. It was a horrible defeat. Eli, the Cohen at the time, heard about it and he died. His 2 sons died, as was prophesied. And wherever the ark went, the enemies of Adonai were oppressed so badly. In fact, they took the ark and placed it in the temple of their god. Whatever his name was is irrelevant. And his statue broke. Because they wanted their God to be Lord over the only God, but it didn't work, so they all were afflicted with all kind of diseases and tumors, and their statues were broken, and they all started panicking. What is this? What is going on? And they started consulting all of their priests and soothsayers. What are we to do with the Ark of Adonai? Tell us how to send it back. And then they sent it with some guilt offering and more offerings, and they put all kind of gold models and tumors and all kind of stuff and sent it back to where it belonged, because they realized that the God of Israel is holy, and this oppression of the ark was bringing in disaster upon them. It was horrible. This one the Lord fought by himself, because remember what we told you, it is the battle belongs to the Lord. If you're not with him, you're gonna suffer the consequence, but the Lord will still have victory over his enemies. So the Philistines thought their gods gave them victory, but the Lord is jealous for his name, so he made sure that they know, no, I gave you the victory over my people. It is not your gods. I am God of all gods. And the Lord was thus held in high regard even with the enemies of Israel. Even they understood that there is none like the Lord, and they said, "Who can stand before this holy God?" So God got the glory.
Praise Papa. You know, we didn't give a specific because there are many stories, but one that we probably should have was Gideon. And because Gideon was the weakest and the smallest, and he was told to go to battle. Gideon was facing an army anywhere from 150,000 to 200 to 300,000 soldiers. But we know at a minimum it was about 135, 140,000 at a minimum, or at the average. So it could have been. Uh, so, you know, rethinking about Gideon and what Gideon went through. He's the smallest of the family. He's the weakest, the smallest tribe, the weakest guy in the family, a non-famous family, no name, not in the higher echelons, highly recognizable. And that's who God chooses to raise up, first to smash the idols in front of his father's house. Secondly, when they get surrounded by this alliance of pagan nations, the weakling, the coward, the man who just shrivels up and doesn't want to be called upon, so shrinks in his chair so he's not seen, is called upon, not by the men, but by God. What, me? Don't you know where I am? Well, I'm nothing. I'm the side. You, no, you want him, you want her, you want them. You don't want me. Oh, no, I want you. And God will choose people typically like that because it gives him glory. So no one can boast in themselves about how many degrees they have, how much money they have, how many championships they've won, how big their muscles are. No, I want you to know that I want to choose a man that when they win, they would never expect a win by that man's hand. They would never expect a message to come from that person. That's the Lord. And he chooses Gideon, surrounded by anywhere from 135,000 to 200,000 or more, a coalition of Israel's enemies. Now, you're going to need an army. No, they can't muster up much, but at least 30,000 is a nice start for an appetizer to get your butt whipped rather than to be completely decimated. 30,000. While his enemy has got 5 times that or more. So you've got 5 times the odds against you. And even that, the Lord said, you got too many. What? The army is 4 or 5 times or more bigger than we are. This is what we've got. It's what you got. It's not what I'm going to use. 30,000 is too much. Oh, you got to prove this is God talking to me. And Gideon puts out fleeces. He wants to make sure that this is God talking to him. God tells him what to do. God gives him anything. Hey, listen, go down here, do this. Tell these men that anybody that needs to go home, wants to go home, send them. Well, how many you got now? Well, I think that dwindled it down from 30,000 to 15,000. Well, you still got too many. What? You still got too many. Go do this, go do that. The Lord goes through this whole little vetting process, and Gideon can't believe it. I got 30,000. I got 15,000. Now I got 15. Now I got 3,000. And I still got too many. What are you telling me? He gets it down from 30,000 to 300. That's who I'm going to use. So they were already 5 times or more than we are. And what does Papa do? He breaks them down to 10 times less than what they were to go against an army that when they were 10 times more at 30,000, that army was 5 times more than that. And we see it with Elijah the prophet when he challenges the pagan prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel. Go ahead, bring up all your guys. Go ahead, do what you do. Now my turn. Let me show you who God is. Oh no, I want to wet my altar to bring up. Oh, wet it. Put everything. Let's flood it. I'm going to show you who God is. God doesn't need help. God needs obedience because it's a sign to everyone else of what God can do. These battles. Oh, by the way, yes, Gideon won. As we talked earlier about the lantern and the shofar. And we go right through the Philistines. We talked about David. He won his battle. All of the battles that David won. All of the battles that Samson won. We can go right through the list. I mean, there's so many. Jehoshaphat with the singers. He goes before the battle. The Amalekites, they won in 1 Samuel 15. The Philistines, they won in 1 Samuel 17. The list of David's victories, 1 Samuel 18. David versus Saul, a bit of a monarchy civil war. David versus the Philistines. David versus the Gershonites, the Gerzites and Amalekites. Don't forget Ziklag. David versus the Amalekites. So those were the common, just regular enemies that are always there. Saul versus the Philistines. List of warrior battles. David and his mighty men. David versus the Benjamites. There we go again. Second Samuel. Second Samuel. Jebusites in Jerusalem. They won. The Philistines. Second Samuel. Chapter 5. They won. Second Samuel. Chronicles 14. Philistines. They won. List of victories. Too many to mention. Second Samuel 8, Chronicles 18. Amorites and Arameans. Second Samuel 11, Amorites. Second Samuel, David versus Absalom, his own son. Back to the Civil War. You will fight against your own brother. Your own father, Saul and Jonathan. Second Samuel 20, David versus Sheba and Civil War. List of victories against the Philistines. Second Samuel 21. Solomon. Time of peace. First Kings 11. And why? David had been a warrior, hands are bloody. The temple that David wanted to build to God, God did not want built with bloody hands. And when you have a time of peace, you tend to play more, which is when Solomon allowed the women to erect all of these foreign gods on the hills of Jerusalem. First Kings 11. Rehoboam versus Jeroboam, Civil War. Chronicles, First Kings 14. The Chronicles 12. Judah versus Egypt. They lost.
Why? Because God says, "You have abandoned me, therefore I have abandoned you into the hands of Shishak." And and that really is, that's the message. We'll post a link so that you can read this list we've been mentioning to you. But here's the message. Here's the bottom line. Like we've said before, we'll repeat it again to sum it up. Walk with God. Fight His battles according to His ways against His enemies, while you yourself are holy and righteous and worshiping Him alone and trusting in Him. It's not about your battle, it's not about your brand, about your army. Sure, we have the Iron Dome, sure, we have nuclear weapons, sure, we have the IDF, you have yours in the US. It matters not. The battle does not go to the strongest, or the brightest, or the most courageous, but to the one whose Lord Adonai ordained and established as victorious. And if you do what is just and right, and you fight for God's cause, you'll be successful.
Your battle belongs to the Lord. The Lord says, I'll fight your battle. Hallelujah. We used to sing that song, that battle. What's that battle worship song? Come on.
This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how. It may feel like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may feel like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how. Sing, praise, worship. Give Papa the glory, and He will give you the victory.